Good evening. It is February 17th, and it is Wednesday of 2016. I'm Jacob,
I'm Danielle,
and this is the Proteus Podcast, ideas in all shapes and forms.
and sometimes in no form at all.
Yes, the amorphous idea. Always a big seller.
Speaking of amorphous ideas, I was looking at the best way to optimize a gelatinous ooze for a Dungeons and Dragons campaign.
Wow, that... I don't even know how to feel about gelatinous oozes.
Yeah, I thought about giving a gelatinous ooze player character levels.
Oh, that is unkind.
I'm sorry, I have a cat here, and this cat is like all of a sudden like going batshit crazy off in the corner. It's like meow 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 meow. It's like I don't want you to talk about gelatinous oozes with rogue levels. And I'm like, no, gelatinous ooze with rogue levels is like the best thing ever.
With rogue levels, you are
Yeah,
truly insane.
yeah. Could you imagine getting backstabbed by a gelatinous ooze?
That would... I don't even... No, I can't. That would be just untold levels of difficulty.
If you were going to be a gelatinous ooze, what type of gelatinous ooze would you be?
Be the kind that lurks in a barrel and giggles to itself over 1,000 years.
No?
Well, you know.
What would you be giggling about?
How clever it was to lurk in the barrel where they're going to open the barrel to see if there's any good loot in there.
And then you're going to be like, hush, splork.
And, they open it and you just splork out and gelatinously ooze everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I figure a gelatinous ooze has got a low enough level of intelligence that it would think something like that is super funny and consider itself very clever for having done it.
Ooh, what about a gelatinous ooze wizard?
Ooh, so basically you could reach a point where you had a gelatinous ooze that had teleport.
Yeah. It could teleport itself or phase door itself up above an adventure and just fall onto them.
Seems like I remember that happening.
No, one time I dropped an ooze on you all, but I didn't teleport it.
It's the same thing, effectively, though.
Oh,
Bad times were had by all.
yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It really is.
So you saw Deadpool.
I saw Deadpool.
And it is amazing.
It is amazing. I had never seen a movie that had everyone laughing at the intro credits.
Wait, there's intro credits?
Yeah.
It's not just like Deadpool.
Well, you know how a lot of movies, they come in and they show you some scenes, establishing shots, and, they put, the director's name and the actor's name, and it kind of does stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that equivalent type shot in Deadpool is hilarious.
Okay.
It's probably a good 2 or 3 minutes long, and the entire theater was brimful of laughter the entire way through.
I can't wait till I see it. Hopefully Friday at this point.
It's going to be a good Friday.
Mm-hmm. All I know is I need to be looking out for a one line in the movie called like National Women's Day. That's all my friends would tell me.
Yeah, that's going to be a moment.
Okay. Evidently a good moment.
Yeah, it's it's something. I'm really hard not to spoil. This is
Okay.
You've got to see this movie.
We'll change topics. Tell us.
Speaking of movies, though.
Oh.
Did you see the new Quentin Tarantino movie, The Hateful Eight?
Yeah, I saw it in glorious, 70 millimeter?
Nice. I didn't get to... I guess we did talk about this at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it, and now one of my favorite other podcasts did a spoiler cast on it. So I'm like, I need to see this movie so I can listen to my favorite podcast.
Oh man, it's so good. I personally think it was a great Tarantino film. I know that there are others that disagree with that. However,
That's always the way of it, though.
I will say that I the big thing about it, aside from Quentin Tarantino's awesome cinematography and his ability to really capture something, would be the 15-minute intermission.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. Because it's like, oh, I get to stand up. I get to stretch my legs in the middle of this film.
Yeah.
This is great.
Some of those things, like watching older movies that incorporated intermissions more often, I feel like is lacking in some movies, but at the same time, you really have to have the right kind of movie to have an intermission work.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Western and the epic style movie of Ben-Hur or Lawrence of Arabia, those movies, an intermission works. You really would have a hard time selling an intermission in The Matrix.
I don't know. Maybe in the first Matrix you could get away with it.
Yeah, but you get my point. Like action movies and the modern movie format does not lend itself to the intermission.
Now, what about like modern movies, like let's say Return of the King?
Now that you could have done it, but see, that's all at the same time that sort of harkens to a style like Lawrence of Arabia, where it's this grand, sweeping, epic story.
Do you know like which type of film should never have an intermission?
Romantic
or
comedies
shouldn't even be made. No, anything that Michael Bay is involved in.
Actually, I think he should totally bring back the intermission because it would be like as a form of irony. No. Anyways.
I watched the top 10 reasons why we hate Michael Bay movies today.
Yeah, except for the one or two great Michael Bay movies.
And what would you consider like the one or two?
Well, The Rock is one of them. Like,
okay, that's
everyone
older
admits,
Michael Bay.
This is Michael Bay at his greatest, back when Nicolas Cage was not Nicolas Cage. He was just whatever.
Wait a second. Nick Cage is great.
He's great.
Don't you dare attack Nick Cage.
He is, like, at this point, the quintessential Hollywood madman, though. Like, before he became totally insane, buying, dinosaurs and pyramids.
Well,
and being in every movie just to make his money. Anyway. And then, from what I've been told, a lot of people are really liking 13 Hours. They're saying it's one of his better movies.
Does it have a lot of American flags and an overuse of patriotism? And that shot, that camera shot where someone gets out of their car and it's like the slow motion pan from like side or back to front.
Now, I haven't seen it, right? But I've consulted with quite a few people on the subject. And they're the type of people that I would not expect to like anything Michael Bay does, and they've said it is a good movie. So I'm taking that with a grain of salt until I see it for myself. But amusingly enough, though, because it was to a certain extent a step away from his normal ridiculousness into a different kind of ridiculousness, I really got a kick out of Pain and Gain.
That was the one with Marky Mark
and The Rock.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I thought that movie was so dumb.
It was dumb, but that's why it was good, because it was dumb in a different direction than Transformers.
I thought that The Rock, oddly enough, was hilarious in that film. Like, his parts were great. But every other part of the film, like any scene without Dwayne The Rock Johnson, was just pitiful. I mean...
I'm not saying it was a good movie in terms of being compared to other good movies. I'm saying it was a fairly good Michael Bay movie compared to other Michael Bay movies.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you set the bar that low, it gets a lot easier.
I don't know, man. I don't think you should set the bar that low. I mean, it's already pretty low, and for some reason, Americans keep on, well, people all over the world keep on going in and, like, going, here's my money!
Well, I mean, I've said this many times before. People give Michael Bay a lot of shit, and
Probably
some of it rightly
he's a
so.
racist and a womanizer.
But here's the thing. You do not go to a Michael Bay movie for the same reason you go to see Lawrence of Arabia. Using this example a lot, right?
I don't know. I think you need to come up with a more modern example, because I don't think most people are going to go out.
Let me think of a
Lord
more
of
recent
Arabia.
movie that's all important and whatnot.
Maybe Dallas Buyers Club.
Okay, well, yeah, you don't go to see Dallas Buyers Club for the same reason you go to see anything Michael Bay does. You go to Dallas Buyers Club or a movie of that nature for an intelligent, interesting movie about real people and with, depth and character. You go to a Michael Bay movie to see cool explosions and fancy special effects for an hour and a half.
Like Transformer Roboballs and the the overwhelming belittling of women. I agree.
There's a whole, they're not in the same category by any means, but people try to judge them as if, he's trying to compete with these classy movies. He's not. He's marketing his product to the lowest common denominator, the redneck American male.
Teenagers. American male.
And it's making him shite tons of money, and you can't fault him for going where the money's at.
I don't know. I think I can fault anyone for anything.
Well, this is America. We go where the money's at.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's succeeding at it pretty roundly.
Okay.
And,
So, he's succeeding at completely making a money fortress, while being a complete and utter asshole. I agree.
But, it's in the grand tradition. Money fortresses and assholery go hand in hand. You can't have a money fortress without being a dick to someone.
Who's Peter Jackson been a dick to?
Oh, everyone?
Everyone?
Everyone that liked The Lord of the Rings?
Hey, the Lord of the Rings movies were good.
That's the problem. And then he was a dick to them when he made The Hobbit.
Wait, The Hobbit was good.
Yeah, but... Oh, gosh, we're going to get into this one. The problem with The Hobbit was it was a 3-movie cartoon.
I don't see anything wrong with The Hobbit being 3 films.
It's not so much that I take objection to the 3 films, which seemed a bit stretched at the end, but whatever. The problem I had with the Hobbit trilogy was the fact that they had all this prior art, for lack of a better term, with the orcs and the awesome costuming they did, and all the awesome practical effects that they used, and the forced perspective to get the hobbits to be little and Gandalf to be big. These were camera tricks, and it looked really good. And they said, forget all that, we're going to go with all CGI orcs, all CGI a whole bunch of other stuff, and we're going to use computers to make almost everything to do all the sizing problems. And it really, really showed. It felt like a giant video game trailer.
Oh, so that actually brings us to World of Warcraft movie.
Yeah, I'm still going to watch that because, I already wasted so many years of my life on it. What's one more hour?
I think it's going to be terrible.
Yeah, probably.
It's going to be so bad. There's no way that can be good.
There's a chance. But here's the thing.
Wait, what's the chance?
There's the chance that it won't completely suck.
Okay, so it's not...
Well, it really depends on what direction you...
There's a chance of it being good. There's a chance that it might not suck.
Well, I'm looking at it like this. It depends on which direction you're coming at it from. If you're coming at it as a Warcraft fan and a player of the game, and someone that came into it mainly in WoW and doesn't give too huge of a hoot about the timeline and lore, which I'm sure a vast portion of the players don't, then it'll probably be a pretty good movie. If you are the super Warcraft nerd, like maybe you and I have been, it's going to be an okay movie, but it's going to mess some stuff up, and you're kind of going to be kind of upset about that.
I'm thinking it's going to be one step above Yui Bowl and not much else.
Now that's setting the bar way, way too low.
Well, the trailer looked terrible. I mean, they should have just done a cartoon, like Pixar-style cartoon, if they're going to do with how the orcs were looking. I mean, blah.
The orcs look like they do in the CGI trailers is the thing. In the CGI ones, in-game trailers. Problem.
They look like they did 5 years ago, right?
They don't cinematics?
Look like like the cinematics 5 years ago, which haven't aged well.
They've aged better than you think, though. They've aged a lot better than some of the other companies' CGI trailers. But I think to a certain extent that's what they were trying for. They were pandering to that, hey, you need to make a full-length CGI WoW movie because these CGI trailers are awesome. I think they're hitting their market as tightly as they can, and they're shooting it at the people that really love the games, and they still, the people that are still playing Warcraft 3 and Warcraft 2 because they're good games, not because they're just fans of the franchise.
Okay.
Because I watched a really interesting video that was like a 20-minute breakdown of the trailer.
Yeah.
And it starts pointing out all these details in the background that there's all the foreground action, but then you see things little, frame by framing, they're going through things and pointing out, oh, hey, there's this, here's this, we recognize that. It's amazing they even bothered to include that. And when you start picking up that level of attention to detail, it gives me a much greater ray of hope for the quality of the movie in terms of being faithful to the content.
Okay.
Now, it might be campy as all shit and terrible acting. That's sort of yet to be seen. But I think if you're a fan of the WoW universe, I think to a certain extent it's going to pull you in, whether it's super awful or not.
I think we're going to get into the movie, and about halfway through it, they're going to introduce a very young, I lost his name.
Thrall? Yeah. I don't think we're going to get pushed that far forward.
Wait, and they're going to gender flip him. It's going to be female.
Well, they'll probably leave if that happens, but I bet you a nickel it doesn't come to this town, so I'll have to watch it after it comes out. But
so slight shift of conversation.
Right.
They are. Do you know the Shannara books by Terry Brooks?
I recognize the author's name. I have not read those books and am not even particularly peripherally aware of them.
Okay, they're amazing books. They are pretty good. Terry Brooks, as an author, is a terrible person, as he has sold his soul for everything.
Who did he sell it to?
Well, they're making a TV adaptation of the Shannara books.
Huh.
And evidently, I haven't seen it yet. The first two are okay, pretty good. But the first two episodes of Legend of the Seeker were good as well.
That show was interesting. Legend of the Seeker. Because if you went into it having never read any of the source material, it was actually a pretty decent show all the way through. But from what I'm told, if you had any inkling of what the source material was supposed to be like, it pretty much ruined the show.
See, I don't think that's cool. I mean, okay.
Well,
I know that Game of Thrones is a huge budget but they're really just now really deviating from the books, and that's because George R. R. Martin
Hadn't finished writing them.
hasn't finished writing them.
Yeah.
If you have a full series of books with awesome source material, you should be able to follow a storyline.
Yeah.
Even a little bit.
Yeah, major deviations is a huge problem in book adaptations when people are just like, this wasn't in the book at all and it's stupid. Or, why did you add all this and take away all that? On the other hand, when you've got a nearly there adaptation, which is mostly acceptable, it kind of, well, I guess the point is going into it having never read the books makes reading the books a lot more enjoyable after you've seen any adaptation of a movie or of work.
For the most part.
It's like Stephen King, Dreamcatcher, the movie.
Yeah.
I saw that movie before I had ever read the book, right? And thought it was a pretty okay movie. Then I listened to all 40 hours of that book on audiobook because Stephen King writes kind of like a maniac. And then I saw the movie again, and the movie now sucks.
Yeah. I guess
it's kind of
to that though.
It runs both directions, They're
Stephen King movies are weird though. Okay?
Some of them hold up though.
Like
some
The
of them
Stand
don't.
is great. The book and the movie are both great. The Langoliers, not so much.
The Langoliers wasn't even a good movie to begin with, and I saw it before and I've never read the book.
I kept seeing Cousin Balky.
The Langoliers was great right up until the Langoliers showed up, actually, as a movie.
Nom 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 Pac-Man. Nom,
Chainsaw
nom.
Pac-Man shows up, and you're like, wait, this movie stopped being anything. Yeah.
Then shifting one more thing over I'm rereading the first fantasy series I ever read.
Really? And which is that?
Yeah, like my gatekeeper drug into the fantasy books. Like this actually led me to Tolkien.
Huh.
And it's the Iron Tower trilogy by Dennis McKiernan. And as a teenager, I didn't read the foreword of the book. And the foreword of the book says, hey, I'm this guy, and I really like fantasy books. But no one's writing good fantasy books anymore, so I can't find them on the shelves. So I decided to write a great series of fantasy books that are very similar to the fantasy books that you know and love. And as I'm rereading through these books, I'm like, no shit, it's similar to the ones that I know and love. This is a straight ripoff out of like every fantasy novel ever written before this guy.
So,
and he's just like unabashed about it.
Ripoff or homage? The line is quite fine.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still loving the books, but I'm like, wow, man, this is I'm pretty sure this is a Lord of the Rings character.
I can't even remember what would be qualified as the first fantasy series I read. Probably the Chronicles of Narnia.
No, yes.
If that qualifies as fantasy.
I read it does, actually. It does. It was written by a man who smoked a lot of opium with J.R.R. Tolkien. So, you know.
My leanings went more towards science fiction, really. So I didn't. My history of fantasy novels is thin.
That's okay. I don't read that much science fiction because I find it boring.
Yeah, I liked a lot of it.
If I want science fiction, I read Slashdot.
There used to be in our local library, there was an entire room dedicated to science fiction. And I would just go in there and randomly pick books and read them. So I've read a great deal of a very odd mishmash of science fiction, but somehow haven't read most of the classics.
Like anything written by Isaac Asimov?
I've read some of Asimov's stuff. Don't care for a lot of it. Some of it's hard to read, and like I've never
Yeah.
read Rendezvous with Rama because
Is that when his protagonist meets Ranma from the anime series?
no, it's
Yapapa, yapapa, upame.
I know the gist of the story. Basically, a giant alien ship appears out at the outer edge of our solar system. And so we go, holy smokes, there's a giant alien ship out at the edge of our solar system. We got to go check this out. And we throw all these resources at sending some people out there to see it. And I get the impression that the ship is called Rama. And it's like a giant, basically it's probably a generation ship, but it's empty. And it's like a giant cylinder, and the outer wall of it is terraformed, and it spins, so there's gravity. And it's the story of the people going through this ship and trying to figure out what it's about. And I'm told it's one of the great science fiction novels. Never read it.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't get to it. When I read, I'm bouncing back and forth between mystery, or thriller, like murder thriller, like not like horror, but like noir. Noir is the word I'm looking for.
Right.
And fantasy.
See, I read a huge mishmash of things. Like I said, quite a bit of science fiction, of a range of genres of science fiction, because there's a range of them. But then there's quite a few different authors that I really enjoy that do, like, some of them are almost police procedurals. Some of them are like mystery with, highly advanced protagonists.
Uh-huh.
What would be the...
Oh.
I guess you could kind of say that one of my favorite characters, it's the author is... It's two authors. They're Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. They write together. And their main character could really be described as sort of a modern-day Sherlock Holmes allegory, kind of. Incredibly intelligent, extremely... is allegory the right word? Probably not. The point is, it's an extremely intelligent, highly eccentric character that comes in and solves these crimes.
Ah, okay. Is he addicted to meth?
No, but he's super weird.
Okay.
The point is he's a really good character, and they write really interesting books. There's probably, I think, close to 20 of them at this point. And, they've done some series and so on. So, I'm reading those. And then I like to read occasionally sort of the more pulpy action fiction, like the Dirk Pitt novels.
Oh, man, Dirk Pitt.
Yeah. They're all the exact same novel.
Yeah.
Just with a different set.
My mom loved Dirk Pitt novels, and then when Matthew McConaughey did that one Sahara,
which was actually not a bad movie.
It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't a great movie.
No.
It definitely deserved a sequel more than, let's say, Transformers 2,
probably
3, 4.
But yeah. And
any of the Fast and the Furious
I've kind of become slightly disillusioned with the whole franchise because, like I said, I've realized at some point that they're all practically the same novel, just with a different, window dressing.
A different MacGuffin?
Yeah, a different MacGuffin. And then I went back and read some of his older stuff, like the first few novels when he first started out with the character. Some of that is genuinely bad. Like, I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, so basically what he's writing here is he wanted to write 007 novels, but that name was taken, and so he made this guy. Because it's like the chauvinistic, just complete asshole. It is really, really different from the later stuff when he realized, wow, this doesn't sell well with a lot of people, so I better tool this character down to be a little more civilized. Nothing but womanizing, drinking, and fighting kind of a thing. And, just super awesome at everything because he's because he's this character, he has to be the best.
Huh.
A lot
So
of
no
that
flaws.
wish fulfillment kind of stuff that they tell you not
Except
to
for
do
being
if
a
you're starting out
womanizer.
writing.
Yeah. Oh man, I love talking about books.
Me too.
We should talk about books more.
Yeah. But then, like I said, I read those, and then like I'll just occasionally get on a tangent of I'm gonna read like 20 archaeology novels for no real reason, and just start picking random stuff off of Amazon. And the cheap, ebooks, and some of them are terrible, and I read them really, really fast, and some of them are okay, and I read those really, really fast, and some of them are actually good, and I'm like, hey, I'll have to get some more stuff from this author, and then I do.
Okay.
Yeah. That's, like I said, just a little of everything. Whoa, that reminds me. Well, there was the authors I spoke of earlier, Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. They've got this main character that I've read, but they have written in separately a bunch of other books, right? And then they wrote together this new character that I hadn't read. They wrote 3 books with that character. And I didn't realize it at first when I started reading those 3 novels, but it tied back into a whole bunch of other stuff they'd written. Like it all looped back in, and they set up this really awesome story for him to write later. And I'm super excited. I'm like, oh man, when's that book coming out? Because it's going to be great.
Oh man, that reminds me of a book series I started reading in high school. It was a 5-book series, and each book of the series was written by a different author.
Huh.
Oh man, I never found the 4th and 5th book.
That's different.
Yeah.
Which reminds me of reading when I was a kid. I read pretty much every Hardy Boy novel I could find. And when I ran out of those, I read a whole bunch of the Nancy Drew novels because my sister was reading them and I needed something to read.
The Nancy Drew novels are great.
Yeah, some of them are good. The Hardy Boys one suffers a great deal from all being the same novel with different window dressing.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of them are good.
Oh, okay. So, I have to ask you.
Right.
I have to ask you an important question.
Okay.
Do you have a quote from one of these authors?
From one of these authors, boy, I sure don't.
Do you have a memorable line or an anecdote from them?
No, but I did read a really great quote that kind of ties into reading and learning and all that.
Okay.
It said, some people drink at the well of knowledge. Others just gargle.
And who said that?
I don't know. I read it on the internet and it wasn't attributed, but
Oh man, you need to find that.
I put that one down in my deep memory banks because that is truly disgusting and describes so much of the world.
Really bad.
Isn't it though?
So I do have a quote from one of my favorite authors,
Okay.
the immortal Dr. Seuss.
Hmm.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
That's a really good quote.
Yeah, and that's how I feel at the end of every book I read.
That's
like
a
even
good
the
way to
bad
look
ones.
at that. Even the bad
Except
ones.
instead of cry, it's like scream with fury.
Yeah.
Like the psychic detective in the one book. Oh god, it was so bad. In the last 60 pages, she introduced a werewolf, a half god, another type of shape changer, and she got married so she would be happy.
Wow, sounds like someone's publisher was pushing them to wrap that up and get it done.
Yeah.
And they were like,
really bad.
fine, I'll just do this.
I was like, this is all bullshit.
Yeah. I hate when books end that way. What was that horrible movie that did that?
Where everyone gets married?
No, what? It It was one of those movies where there's all these clues that something bad's going to happen, and then they're rushing around figuring out what's happening. And in most movies, they finally find the MacGuffin and stop the bad thing from happening.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, some aliens came and took all the children away, and then the world ended. And then the aliens put the children on a new planet so they could continue humanity. And you're like,
oh,
what? Like right up to the bitter end, you're like, and they're gonna find them a thing, and they're gonna stop the world from being destroyed by this other thing, and it's gonna be okay because that's how movies work. And then that didn't happen, and you're just sitting there in the theater going, why did I watch this? This is super depressing.
That's really bad.
I can't remember what it was. The ending of the movie ends with these two children that have been imbued with some special power by the aliens walking through this garden-like world up to this great big tree, and it's this ridiculous Eden allegory. I think I used allegory correctly in a sentence this time.
Well done.
The point is that you're just like, I don't want this to be the end. I want you to have done something completely different because this is stupid.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, everyone, for coughing in your face or in your ear. I want you to think about that for a moment. I just coughed in your ear.
Hi, police car that went by behind you.
Oh, well, that wasn't even near me. That's like 3 blocks away.
Yeah, I heard it. I don't know if anyone else did.
Hello, everyone. I live in a city.
Yeah. One of my favorite YouTubers does some Let's Plays. Wow. It's getting late and I'm getting tired. And quite regularly, right in the middle of them recording, a train goes by somewhere in their town, and you hear the honking, and they always go, "Hi, train!" Because you just can't account for it. Their schedules are too random, so you can't record around the train. So it's a, "Hi, train! Thanks for running my recording."
Aw.
Yeah.
You know what we need as we start to wrap up here?
Music.
We need a phrase. We need a phrase or something to wrap up these podcasts.
7 years ago. Wait, that one's taken.
Yeah, that one's taken, and On That Bombshell is taken. Mr. Rogers has a theme song. What do we have?
Bitter irony and the jaded meter. How jaded are you today?
Figuring that we started this conversation about Michael Bay.
And ended with the joys of reading.
Yeah, but I just brought up Michael Bay again.
The joys of reading.
6.
A 6? I'm going to put myself clear down at a 3 because you reminded me about the joys of reading.
Oh, there you go.
Reading Rainbow. Book It. Remember Book It and Pizza Hut?
Oh, man. Book It and Pizza Hut. Man, I remember one time I got enough for 4 personal pan pizzas.
I remember getting a pizza, and I remember lots of other good things, and a button, and it was cool. And on that positive note, I'm Jacob.
I'm still Danielle.
And we've been the Proteus Podcast. Have a good night.
Later.